Moving on, next, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Vice President of Smart Cities IBM Asia addressing all of you. IBM, the platinum sponsor of National Information Technology Conference 2014. He's the Vice President for IBM's Smart Cities business in Asia Pacific. He leads an integrated team of Smart Cities solution experts, helping both public and private organizations improve, integrate, and add intelligence to city systems, including transportation, public safety, water, energy, social services, education, research, and urban management. He engages IBM's economic, big data, cloud, mobility, and social experts to help optimize the innovation, value, and overall returns from Smarter Cities projects. Please welcome the Vice President, Smarter Cities IBM Asia Pacific, Mr. Tim Gresinger, to address the gathering.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here today to present to you, and I want to thank the Computer Society of Sri Lanka for inviting IBM to be a platinum sponsor and for me to present today. What I'd like to do today is share with you some examples of smart cities from our experiences from around the world. Fundamentally, smart cities is a great example of the theme of this conference, is using ICT for the development of systems for the benefit of citizens, and to, thank you very much, to help citizens have a better experience here in Colombo and all across Sri Lanka. So I have selected a number of examples from the projects we have done around the world, and I would ask you to help apply and think about how these examples could be brought to bear here in Sri Lanka, unique to the needs of you as citizens and you as leaders to help make this possible. Each of these examples could be gone in great depth, but I'm going to go over several of them rather quickly. I felt it was good to share more examples than just a few to help broaden the exposure of potential applications. Smart cities is really made possible by the fact that the world has become instrumented, interconnected, and we have such an advanced capability to make intelligence. There is no longer just the computer systems that bring information to us, but it's censored infrastructure. And all the projects that are being built here across the country have the opportunity to be censored from the beginning, as opposed to other parts of the world have to be retrofitted with sensors. Dumb infrastructure made smarter. The opportunity here in Sri Lanka is to build smart infrastructure and to embed information technology into projects as they get developed. But all this censored information and all the great connectivity that exists here ultimately brings together the fact that we're overwhelmed with data today. The world has no lack of data. And the value in data comes from creating insights from that information. As I have here in the chart, it's then not only to have insights, but to automate and to take the appropriate action based on those insights. So to IBM, we believe that that's the ultimate differentiator in the Smart Cities project, is to look at how you take all this different data that comes from around us, from citizens, from social media, from sensors, and to create insights and actions that benefit the citizens. We also believe that projects need to generate economic value. These are not science experiments or research projects in their own right, but they are meant to create economic value. So whether it's reducing the pollution and CO2 in Stockholm by helping reduce traffic in the center of the city, or saving the county of Miami in Florida, the water district, $1 million a year out of its $4 million budget by instrumenting its water meters and detecting leaks, or helping universities do analytics on its student population to predict those who might drop out, and to not only help bring them through the college university education, but to eliminate that cost to society of having people use those valuable seats in universities only to drop out halfway through a semester. So there's many different examples of how Smart Cities works across all different dimensions of society, both infrastructure-wise, but also in education, social services. While there's the opportunity to create value in each of these different dimensions, I want to share with you an example from Rio de Janeiro that uniquely brings them together. Now, Rio has a compelling event, reasons to act. They had the World Cup this summer, and in 2 years from now, they have the Summer Olympics. And I'm going to show you a video here that gives you a feel for what they have done. And I'm proud to say last Sunday in the National Day speech of the Prime Minister of Singapore, he used this slide and this reference to show Singaporeans where he would like to take the next step in Singapore. So I'm going to ask for the video to be played.
While known for its rich culture, active lifestyles, and stunning natural beauty, is also burdened with crime, aging infrastructure, and natural disasters. Already a burgeoning city of 6 million, Rio now prepares for millions more as they get ready to host the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympics. Like other forward-thinking cities, Rio realized it was in need of a new city operations plan to improve emergency response coordination, manage increased traffic, and improve services for citizens. Rio turned to IBM to create a smarter city by integrating more than 30 agencies into one centralized command center. The new Smarter City system gathers data from sectors across city operations, making it easy for security officials and crisis managers to monitor and respond to problems quickly. Data from sensors and video feeds create real-time maps and graphs, working to predict problems and counteract them. Weather monitoring systems forecast heavy rains with state-of-the-art accuracy, giving city officials the ability to anticipate floods and mudslides, alert the public, and send emergency support. The Smarter City system has improved emergency response time by 30%, making Rio a safer city. The result is a visionary city, equipped to react, predict, and plan for current and future events. But this is just the beginning. Rio's Smarter City transformation is set to expand to transportation, public works, and utilities. Every city, large or small, has its own unique challenges. Working with forward-thinking cities like Rio and more than 2,000 other Smarter Cities projects around the world, IBM is able to help make cities smarter.
So we look at cities ultimately as a system of systems. There's an opportunity to make every subsystem of city smarter, better, and it's usually the best place to start where there's real impact to be made. But as you're looking forward here in Sri Lanka to where to go, I would suggest you also consider the fact that cities are a system of systems, that each system and part of a city interconnects with the other. So for instance, if you can reduce crime, you'll have a greater use of public transportation. If you have a greater use of public transportation, there'll be less traffic. Less traffic creates less pollution, less dependence on the healthcare system. You can triangulate all these in different ways. Rio de Janeiro is an example of emergency response and coordinating traffic so that they can get response teams through better traffic to saving lives of people suffering from mudslides along the hills of Rio. Now, Rio's then went a step further for the World Cup, and they took the idea of a command center and they took it mobile. So they created mobile command centers, 24 of them, to go to each of the cities that were hosting the football games. And now they're leaving behind as a value to society and a value to each of the states and cities that hosted the events, this command center for the police and local government to use for an ongoing command center of their own. IBM also recently worked with the government of the Philippines following the terrible typhoon that hit the country last year, and created a system at a national level to start looking at how to deal with emergency response in a coordinated way across the entire nation. So we created a system that would be able to pull together all the first responder information, all the different video, telephony, all the different forms of data, and to be able to start feeding that together. We also started institutionalizing some of the standard operating procedures, taking what to do when a typhoon's approaching, or what to do afterwards in recovery, taking it out of the minds of few experts and helping standardize that across the cities of the Philippines. And then ultimately, one benefit was for the government of the Philippines to see in an executive dashboard where the damage is, where's buildings, people, other kinds of damage being centralized so they can or focus so they can send resources to the right place and optimize the scarce resources of a damaged nation. Another aspect of smart cities besides emergency management is in the area of water. Water is a scarce commodity, and there's different needs at different places. In Australia, the need is to look at conservation of water. In Bangalore, in India, we worked over the last couple of years to work on censoring the infrastructure of their water to identify not only leaks, but also to help with the equitable distribution of water by automating and doing analytics to calculate the valve settings so that everyone gets an equitable share of water in the city of 9 million people. Now, there's also the form of emergency management or public safety in the area of man-made crime or investigations. And we've been working with governments all around the world to help take information and insights and to help determine and make societies safer. So we're working with one nation on a project that, for instance, can go through 1 trillion records of call details, SMSs, and for instance, in a convention, if there's a bomb set out in the parking lot, to be able to query 1 trillion records of telephony calls for a 1 kilometer radius in a very specific period of time, and within 15 seconds get all the calls and traffic made. To be able to go through and look at all the different connections between people, not just 1 degree of separations or 7 degrees of separations, but 20 degrees of separations between entities, buildings, calls, all forms of data, to be able to find those hidden connections that people just can't do themselves. To be able to look at how all that maps onto a geographic view, and ultimately also to help correlate faces and to recognize the different players in an associated pattern of crime. But all that's information analysis, and again, to make that actionable, we put that into a system that analysts can use to go through all this information and make recommendations to leadership as to how to go proceed against an investigation. We have, the Sri Lanka telecom leadership here, and I thought it'd be interesting to look at a telecom example and how telco data is also part of a smarter city. In Istanbul, Turkey, we work with Vodafone and the city of Istanbul to look at, and privately, in protecting the privacy of all the users, collect call records of people who are traveling and moving across Istanbul, Turkey on a given day. And to look at where they live and where they work and how they move, where they bunch up in the city, where they're getting stuck, where they're moving from one mode of transportation or movement of walking to riding, and then ultimately make a detailed analysis of a better recommendation for bus routes and a new metro system. And the resulting data was 7 times more accurate than the city planning data that they previously were using. So, it's a great opportunity here in Sri Lanka to look at all that ability to take this kind of data where citizens move and to make better systems as a result of understanding their needs. And then the last example is something we just announced in June with Singapore in the area of transportation. And I think this is an example of the future of even going further and making intelligent systems, in this case transportation. And it's also an example of collaboration that can be sponsored here in Sri Lanka, because this project is a collaboration between the Land Transport Authority, the mobile provider, StarHub, the metro operator, SMRT, and an IBM. And we're looking at the issue of when trains break down in Singapore, the metro operator, they know where the trains are, but they don't know where the people are. The people are flooding out of subway systems. They don't know how many people are in the system, so it's situational awareness. Where are the people? How many people are on a train platform? But then that's one thing to do, but then it's predicting. If you have all these people in a subway system and they're flooding and the train stuck, where were they wanting to go? The transport authority only knows that they're there. They only know where the train is. But thanks to the use of the metro company's smart card data and the mobile company's mobile data, we're looking at how we can find out where they were coming from and where do they want to go, so that we can take some specific actions and not just put them on a bus to the next stop and overcrowd the next node on the subway system, but to take them where they need to go and create better services for the citizens of Singapore. So in conclusion, I would say that there's an opportunity, especially with the leadership here, to inspire these new ideas as you build new infrastructure and put ICT to use for citizens. And from our experience, many people aspire to do these kinds of projects, but the ones that succeed, like in Rio, are done by cities and regions and countries where the leadership is behind it. No project ever gets done by a committee or by goodwill. It's done by a strong leader who wants to create the outcome. No project ever succeeds if it's only done because it's a fancy show-off project, but they're done because they produce real results. And finally, they're done in ways where the outcome is managed, that the results that were promised are being held accountable back to the system. So hopefully these give you some ideas of what smart cities is all about, what others are doing around the world, and I wish you the very best in applying these ideas here to Sri Lanka. Thank you.